which is basically our stronghold. I say so because of what I saw in Uzumba, what I saw in Toko, what I saw in Weza and in Seke. But in Toko, I hear that today they are busy beating drums and singing songs, chanting slogans, saying that Chamisa is not acceptable in this zone of theirs, as they say. Unfortunately, they didn't know that I've already been to Toko, to Makaha, and I've seen and heard the stories and the cries of people in Makaha who are saying that all their gold is gone, all their resources are gone. Their traditional land has been taken away. And what they are not getting from government is support, security, and assurance that their concerns are being taken on board. I want to thank the people of Masharale East, in particular, Uzumba, Maramba, and Tungwe, Mrewa, Toko, Weza, for being very strong, for remaining steadfast, and for supporting the citizen movement, and for supporting the alternative. Under very difficult circumstances, against all odds, they continue to support us. There is unprecedented violence. Terror has become a daily dose, right? And also we have war zones. People in those communities are not allowed to freely associate, assemble, or even move. It's very difficult because they then poison it with politics. Instead of the police doing their duties, they are now being accused of belonging to one party or the other. Very unfortunate. That has been the case elsewhere. You know, when I went to Mashingo for the first time in my rural outreach program, and by the way, I'm going into the countryside to listen to the people, to hear their grievances and their cries, but also to share with them our next steps. A lot of people have been saying, what is the next stage? What is the next stage? We are very clear about what we are doing. And this is why we've been engaging business people, the church leaders. We've been engaging. Of course, unlike my brother, who is going and doing fair in all the churches, I don't do that. I go to the bishops, the leadership of the church, engage them respectfully. I will never go to any church congregation and sing or chant slogans. That's blasphemous. You are poisoning holy places. And my brother has been doing this with a lot of wanton disregard, because he probably does not know that being at State House is not being in heaven. And it must be understood that the church must continue to be undiluted as places of worship. Very deliberate attempts to invite us into violence. We've seen the temptation, we've seen the machinations of Zanu PF. They want us to descend into violence so that they can then justify a state of emergency, justify then their tomfoolery, justify their macho tactics and their violence. But we will not allow them, that violence. We will remain peaceful. We will remain maintaining peace. A lot of people have been saying, but Mr. Chamisa, we can't be beaten, with our hands tied behind our back. I say, peace is fragile. Peace comes at a cost. Our high road is a high road to democracy. Mr. Changra would always say, I will never walk on dead bodies to State House. I will repeat the same statement. Because I know that our road and journey to State House is assured. So why would we lose a single life on account of politics? That will not happen. Let me also comment just on the issue of the economy and corruption. We note with concern that the economy continues to fail many Zimbabweans, but this is due to spectacular mismanagement and endemic corruption. If you look at what I've stated before, the economy is failing on account of bad leadership and bad governance. Look at how Zimbabweans are being treated in the neighboring countries. Like people without identity, without a heritage, without a nation and land. But each year the country is losing 3 billion, both to illicit flows and plunder of money through corruption that is taking place in state-owned institutions, by the admission of the state organs themselves. Ironically, in gold alone, the country has lost about 100 million every time, which amounts to our monthly requirements for medical drugs in our hospitals. 1.8 billion that is lost through our illicit financial flows is enough to pay a salary bill of the entire civil service, paying them $500 per month. Currently, you know, the price basket is about 140,000. And if you look at what the civil service are getting, they're getting peanuts. They can't make ends meet. That is the same story with all our people who are in the various professions across the various sectors. Having said this, one would say, but what would you say about the electoral environment in the country? Let me just say that in terms of our elections in the country, what is clear is that Zanu PF is now engaged in a systematic attempt to try and reverse their defeat, which is inevitable in 2023. They are trying to manipulate electoral processes and outcomes, peg the constitutional and electoral bodies with their own people, but will not allow them. It's a fight that we are going to undertake. What we need to see is the entrenchment of the SADC AU protocols, the values and principles of elections that are supposed to be embarked on. And I repeat, what they are doing is illegal and unconstitutional in terms of all the statutes within the country, in the region, and on the continent. A commodity, commodify elections, bring elections outside and out of the reach of many people. The appointment of commissioners has to be an agreed matter. It takes two to tango. They can't tango alone, and we will not allow them to tango. What are we going to do about it? We have already instituted a number of measures. Engagement of SADC is one of them. But also locally, we are engaging all the key stakeholders to make sure that there's a collective voice around this matter. There is going to be a free and fair election in 2023, and we'll have to make sure that that election becomes a possibility. If there's no free and fair election in Zimbabwe, what it tells you is that the problems in our country will never come to an end. And I was telling some leaders within the region that the immigration crisis, as it is called, in the Southern African Development Community is not an immigration crisis. It is indeed a governance crisis in Zimbabwe. People are running out of this country on account of a deficit of good governance, the economic circumstances that they find themselves in, and if we don't resolve those, we will not be able to move forward. So I've given a couple of suggestions to our colleagues in South Africa to also give a moment and an opportunity to the people of Zimbabwe, so that there is some kind of a breathing space for them as we fix our own situation in this country. Trust the vision, trust the leadership. If you doubt our leadership, you always judge us at the appropriate time. Don't force us or harass into things. Don't harass us when we give you proper direction or when we take certain steps. We know much more about what's happening across the other side. And we know how the other side is so desperate to capitalize on our weakness, to then count on violence. So we will not countenance violence. Violence is not part of our DNA. Peace is our language. Peace is our nature. And peace is our next foot forward for Zimbabwe. And we are going to claim our victory. Mark my words. In the past, we would win elections, but not transfer power. Now we are focusing on not just transferring power. Already the inauguration plan is in place. We are ready about what we are doing. Nobody has the monopoly of state institutions. And also nobody has the monopoly of being foolishness and reckless. We can make sure that we democratize that monopoly. We want to make sure that they are dealt with. And we have put on the table that Mr. Mnangagwa and Zanu PF, let us agree on the nature of the pitch and the stadium we are going to play on. The playing field must be what we agree on. If you then do not want to agree, we will find ways of making you see the logic and agree with us. 7 critical issues. The right to vote is fundamental. We want every Zimbabwean above the age of 18 must find it easy to register to vote. Right now, they've been suppressing the voting and registration of voting in urban areas or areas that they perceive to be CCC stronghold. Unfortunately, rural areas are our stronghold. And that's why they've been using party structures and using crowheads and villages to go and register for voting. And I can tell you that we are everywhere as a citizen movement. So the right to vote is critical, including the diaspora vote. I saw in Angola recently for the first time, Angolans in diaspora voted. In Kenya, diaspora vote was there. We want a diaspora vote in this country because it is part of the SADC protocols. It is also part of even our constitution. The right to vote. There can't be taxation without representation. Yet, we gain a lot of money from the diasporans who are doing a fantastic job, and I want to thank those in the diaspora for the wonderful job they are doing at the family level, in various communities, and even nationally. They continue to pivot our country forward. We want to thank them, but they have to be given the right to vote. You can't get their money when you're also not giving them their rights. They have to have their rights. The issue of real-time announcement of votes. We don't want this meticulous verification business. Votes must be on a public domain, real time, and announced so that we all know. That's why in Kenya right now, of course, they have their dispute. But at least people know the outcome because it was being posted on a public domain. Even the press had a quite access into the process. That is what we are pushing. Number 3, we want to make sure that the voters' roll is audited and auditable in terms of the Constitution. Let there be an audit by audit firm of the voters' roll so that we are happy that the voters' roll is clean and credible. And once it is like that, we know that the syllabus is what we are agreeing on. That is what we want to see happen. Of course, the security of the voter is critical in the rural areas, and the security of the vote in terms of making sure that ballot papers, where they are printed, we know them, and we have identified all this. The issue of the media, the security of journalists, is also one critical issue. But also the ability. I don't want to be on ZBC. I have other platforms. But it's my right as a citizen to also share on a marketplace of ideas, my ideas. They always speak on my behalf. Why don't you give me the opportunity? If you want, I'm inviting Mr. Mnangagwa on a live television debate. I know that he will not campaign thereafter because I'll just reduce him to business, intellectually and even on ideas. Because I have a clear and a solid plan, a new Great Zimbabwe plan for Zimbabwe, which is going to develop our country. Now they are celebrating opening of supermarkets, opening of service stations, and making a narrow lane to Masvingo, and they say we've done very well. That's not infrastructure. You want to claim the parliament that was built by Mugabe? That's not infrastructure. Please don't go and claim other people's children and then claim you have a big family. Start your own. We want to see what you are able to do. We have not shown anything. You have squandered your time. They said, let's give ED a chance. There's no chance. You know, he has squandered all the opportunities. They say, no, it's good for business. Business is in tatters. He said, no guys with business. And we told business that we are the best deal.